No more attracting losers after this video. I'm going to tell you guys the red flags and the green flags that you need to watch out for in dating and love and relationships so that you can attract more of the light attributes of your seventh house versus the shadow. So if you've been experiencing like heartbreak, betrayal, or just like toxic relationship after toxic relationship, we're going to look at your seventh house to get some cues on what you should embrace more of and what you can look out for, okay? So my name is Vila. Welcome to Earth and Moon, where we talk moon, goddess, and magic, okay? Right now, it is the season of relationships with everything that's happening in the sky. So consider me your fairy godmother. So also, you guys, talking about transits in the sky, I made an astrology calendar, so that includes everything that's happening this year astrologically, so you can stay ahead of the trend based on your rising sign. It has a retrograde survival guide, which we're currently in the thick of it, and different rituals and affirmations. So it's completely digital. You can download that at the description box so that you know when relationship issues, and because we have Mercury retrograde, communication issues, but we have so much happening. So that's all there. But for the sake of this video, you guys, I'm very excited to be back. Very excited to talk about relationships and love. So in the description, you'll find all the times, and let's just get right into it, okay? This is going to be based on your seventh house sign, okay? The sign on your seventh house is important when it comes to love and relationships because it's your mirror. It represents the types of people that you tend to attract, okay? And you can also, if you have planets in the seventh house, like I have a stellium in the seventh house, so trust me when I know, and it's in Scorpio, so I know relationship chaos, I know it. So if you have planets in the seventh house, also watch for the sign that rules those planets, all right? So I believe that's all the announcements I had. Let me just get right into it. So for my Aries rising, you have Libra in your seventh house, right? Let me get your timestamp though before I forget. Okay. For my Aries rising, okay, the green flags that you're going to look out for is somebody that's very calm, balanced, okay, someone that knows kind of how to say, they have a charm that you're really attracted to because they do things in a way that's indirect, right? Where you're very direct and you're very like, you want something, you go after it, you take your own means, you're very independent. This might be someone who is either a little bit more passive in the things that they do, but it's not in a way that you don't respect. You respect how they do it because they're able to finesse. They have a finesse to the way that they do things that you're really drawn to. So green flags is finesse. Another green flag is you're very attracted to how they bring beauty and aesthetics into everything, right? So for you, it's like, this is the house and we're living in it, but they make the house a home in a way where they add the accents, they add the aesthetics, they're really they make life more enjoyable, they make life more fun and romantic, okay, because they add that little extra flair. So you're just attracted to how they pay attention to things where you initially may not have cared about, like you may not have cared about the little details and like how things look, because for you it's, I need it done. But this person, they add a little layer of life that makes it more, like I said, fun and romantic that you never would have considered before. So I also think another green flag that you want to look out for is someone very diplomatic, calm. They don't really set your fire off. It's someone who's kind of like that airy to your fire, where it ignites your passion and ignites your spark, but in a way where it's not explosive. It kind of contains it in a way where you don't feel trapped though. You don't feel stifled. Okay, so overall, just someone who's a very good communicator. They're relationship oriented, meaning they're like I said, you're very independent and more so concerned and focused on what you want and what you're after and what you want to do. This is someone who's, like I said, they show you another part of life where they're kind of diplomatic and they consider everybody and everything. So now another green flag here is, like I said, it's like they're not as hot-tempered as you, right? They're more calm tempered. They have a very calm temperament. They're not really out and about and like loud or easily set off. Like they're just kind of someone that calms you down a little bit. So I would say in terms of red flags that you want to watch out for, right? Because a shadow aspect of this Libra energy is someone who is too passive to the point where they're kind of people pleasing, right? Someone who you feel like you can control a lot, right? They don't really have a autonomy. They don't really have a sense of self. They're too kind of involved in what you want, okay? They're very clingy, and they're not really, like I said, they don't really have their own identity, and they're a little too maybe focus on appearances and very insecure, where those focuses on aesthetics and what things look like is because of an inner insecurity that they have that they're trying to make up for. So overall, I would say like codependency, passive aggressiveness as well, because you're someone who, you say it like it is, you like it, you say what you mean and you mean what you say. So somebody who you don't really know what they're really feeling, or they kind of hold on to things, or they don't really let you know, like there's a lack of directedness in what they're doing. And it's not that they have to be as direct as you, but it's like they're too people pleasing, right? You never really know what they mean and what they say, right? Everything that they're kind of saying has another meaning to it, and you kind of have to guess what it is that they're actually wanting, right? They kind of want you to read their mind. That's really going to set you off, okay? So overall, I would say, in terms of the energy that you want to embody to attract more of the light attributes in love, is continue to be that confident, that outspoken, that assertive self, okay? Continue to be that person, that part of you, but also look for balance, right? Because you don't want to display the shadow aspects of the Aries rising, where you're almost too hot-headed, you're kind of like very inconsiderate of others. I'm not saying that you are, but there can be the shadow part of Aries where you're just like, it's my way or the highway, I don't really care. Stay in the light attributes of Aries, right? Which is assertiveness about what you want, direct, okay? The hot, fiery, sexy energy that you have, all right? I wrote my notes here just so I don't forget anything. I think that your assertiveness and your fire and your drive, that attracts that Libra energy, someone who is more like calm or passive and temperamental, and less temperamental, if that's how you use the word. But it's about like making sure that you don't feel in relationships that you have to compromise too much, you have to self-abandon, or you have to lean into like someone else's passivity, or you have to tone it down a bit. It's not necessarily that you have to tone it down, but be that leader, right? In the light ways, right? Where you're considering everyone too. It's not necessarily my way or the highway, okay? So I hope that resonated, you guys. Just watch out for those green flags in somebody. That's going to be more beneficial for you versus the shadow aspect of Libra, okay? Or like someone that can also be, as part of shadowy, someone that can be manipulative as well, that kind of manipulates your fire to get what they want, okay? Someone that, like I said, is too focused on aesthetics, or too focused on keeping the peace, where it's like you don't feel like you can really express yourself, and that's just going to make you even more and more explosive, where you kind of feel gaslit into an overreaction. But it's like, you know, so just be mindful of that. Just, again, continue to stay in your Aries rising, and your confidence and your self-assuredness, and that fiery and that temperament, that kind of like energy that you have, and you will attract that Libra energy naturally, okay? Hope that resonated, you guys. Let me know in the comments if it did, and I will see y'all next time. Okay, so if you are a Taurus rising, right, you are very sensual, very attractive, right? So the green flags that you want to look out for in love and relationships based on your 7th house is someone that's very emotionally deep, okay? Because you're more grounded and practical, and you're kind of like, you like to take things at a slow and steady pace. So someone that kind of brings you to a change in intensity that you're not going to initially be comfortable with, but a change in intensity that kind of takes you out of your comfort zone, but you still feel like grounded and secure in something, okay? So some green flags, like there's someone very intuitive, right? Someone who's very observant and perceptive, and like you feel very safe around and at peace with, and just you can chill and vibe, right? Someone who brings that emotional depth, who brings those like brings what you kind of bring, that grounded earthiness, but they bring the roots to it, right? Beneath that earthiness, beneath that groundedness, and you feel still supported, but you're supported in another way, in another aspect of life, where it's more of like, we're more into like the intensity and the passion, right? Someone who ignites that passion inside of you, because like I said, you're more chill, more grounded. So this person is going to be somebody who makes you see like, okay, we can have passion and depth, but also security too, right? Someone who is extremely loyal, very green flags, to the point where sometimes it can be a little possessive, okay? But we're going to get into that with the red flags, right? Very deep and just magnetic. They're someone who green flag is like they radiate power, okay? Even if they can radiate wealth in some ways as well with Scorpio in the 7th house. Someone who you respect, like they just have a dominant energy, a dominant presence, but it's very quiet. It's not like the Aries energy is kind of in your face and loud, you know, but it's very like subliminal and quiet. Like it's a quiet confidence, a quiet power. They exude like I said, just emotional depth and intensity and this magnetism. It feels like this very raw, okay? Very raw and non-physical, right? But you still have a grounded presence. Now, in terms of the red flags, is you really want to watch out for that passion and that magnetism, but that's all that there is, right? It's all lustful, very physically based on your body, right? Someone who's only wanting you for your body, someone who only wants you for like I said, those primal desires. They're not really able to, it's deep and it's intense and it's magnetic, but it doesn't fulfill your need for that stability and groundedness, right? Someone who's manipulative, okay, who kind of is really focusing on dominating for what they want, isn't really concerned on like what you want, okay? Another thing I would say is obsession, power struggles, jealousy here. Even watch out for this in friends, right? Someone who's kind of secretly envious. Watch out for that green flag, that red flag. That's not a green flag, red flag, right? They have control issues where it's kind of my way or the highway. You're both gonna clash with that, okay? Another thing I would say is watch out for connections that they stimulate your need for like this intensity and but it's so outside of your comfort zone. It's too much too soon. Love bombing, right? Because Scorpio is that Pluto energy where it's intense, it's a lot, it's so much going on, right? They're trying to dominate you, they're trying to overpower you, they're trying to like force you into some sort of submission here, right? So you really want to watch out for those types, right? Because with Scorpio in the 7th house, you can really attract people that also secret relationships, kind of want like a fantasy of you or kind of want you for in the night, right? A secret. It's more secret, it's more taboo, but they're not really able to bring it and ground it into something. So it's like a plant that just has the root, but it never fully manifests into a plant, you know? So you really want to watch out for that. You need depth and intensity, but also stability. Stability is really important to you. So you're going to need somebody who combines those two things, but you feel safe, okay? You feel like it's not just them using your body for your body, but it's like a soul merging. That's what the Scorpio energy brings. So I would say you really need to enhance and focus on your self-worth to attract the lighter attributes of the Scorpio energy. Focus on feeling worthy of yourself, not for your body, but in who you are, past those physical senses, seeing your worth in that. Understanding here that like you can attract those deep bonds without chaos and without getting lost in that intensity and all those emotions here, okay? So it's really about cultivating security in yourself, but also making sure that you have vulnerability and intimacy with yourself, because you can also attract people that either are avoidant of intimacy, avoidant of avoidant of like any sort of depth as well. It can manifest in that way. So you want to make sure that you also are deep with yourself, right? You are intimate with yourself so that you're not kind of attracting that shadow. But overall, it's about understanding here, like having that depth without drama, having that depth without control, without domination, right? So not fearing vulnerability, but understanding and having the discernment to see who really deserves that. So making sure that you're pacing it and you're not allowing people to just come in and drop these love bombs and all of that, but it's like it's not really going anywhere, okay? So I hope that resonated, my Taurus. Let me know in the comments if it did, and I will see you guys next time, okay? All right, so now for okay, my Gemini rising. Okay, so if you are a Gemini rising, okay, your green flags that you're going to want to look out for is somebody who's very philosophical, someone who has a meaning, right? It's Sagittarius in the 7th house. So this is somebody who is either well-traveled, it's like they're optimistic, someone who's very growth-oriented, they have some sort of meaning or truth that they're attached to, either like their spiritual beliefs, their religious beliefs, or they're very they're concerned with the truth. They're concerned with expanding their mind in some way. So green flag is someone that you feel like you are going through an adventure with, right? Either you're traveling a lot together, or you feel like you're learning so much about truth and meaning, because you guys can be kind of scattered and kind of have like, you know, we can find truth and meaning in this and that and that and that. But this is someone who kind of like is a truth seeker and is open-minded enough to try and see the right path, right? So they're really concerned on they're really concerned with freedom, right? They're really concerned with optimism, but they're so intelligent, right? Green flag is intelligence. They're knowledgeable about different things. They are so here, the thing with Sag, I know people don't like the word commitment and Sag, but Sag is committed to the truth. Sag is committed to freedom. Sag is committed to growing. Sag is committed to expanding and learning. And so that can kind of clash with our traditional ideas of commitment being like staying on the same thing. But Sag is committed to even if it's not someone who's like this world traveler, it's someone who they would read a lot. Okay, so those are green flags to look out for. Like they're intelligent, they're smart. I don't know if you guys have seen this is like such an old show, but Stargate. Daniel Jackson is like, I feel like the perfect explanation of Sag energy. Okay, even if you don't know, maybe look up that character. But it's just like very intelligent, okay, very wise, right? Green flag is very wise, very knowledgeable about like different cultures or different backgrounds, or someone who is, like I said, they're open-minded and they're seeing life as something to learn and grow about and expand through. Okay, so there's someone who makes you feel like they expand with you, and it goes well with you guys because you guys, like I said, you're kind of airy, right? So they add that action and that movement, because Gemini is more of that nervous system, so you guys can get lost in your thoughts and lost in like so much where it's like so many options and so many choices. That's why you don't really like to feel committed to something, because you always are like changing your mind, right? So with this energy, it's someone who with the Sag, I think, is committed to learning, committed to education here. Lots of humor. Okay, they're honest. That's another green flag. Almost blunt. Okay, very direct, very honest, very truthful. Okay, but overall, I would say like someone who opens you up to new philosophies, open you up to new ways of thinking and learning. Like your green flags, you're constantly talking about the universe, you're constantly talking about different philosophies, different things, even in politics, right, in government and law. Like you're always having those types of conversations where you feel like your mind is being stimulated. Okay, green flag. But again, it's like someone who adds a fire to your mind. They add an action to it, where the ideas and thoughts that you have, there's someone that actually does something about it, where they are expansive in it. Okay, so the shadow aspect here that you want to watch out for, the red flags, is someone who is non-committal. Okay, because Sag energy, like I said, it commits to learning, it commits to growth, it commits to expansion. So if they're not committed to that with you, then that is a red flag. Okay, someone who is more escapist, right? They're traveling a lot, or they're avoiding, they don't really talk about emotions or feelings, or they're kind of too, you guys are so stuck in this intellectual part of connecting, but there's not really an emotional connection there, right? So watch out for anyone who's self-righteous too, where it's like my way or the highway, where they're too stuck on like, this is the meaning, this is the truth, this is the only way to go about it. They're rigid in their thinking. Okay, they're either overly optimistic, where they it's kind of like the Fool in the reverse in tarot, right, where they take like unnecessary risk, impulsive, and it gets you in trouble. Okay, because it's like stimulating your mind too much. Another red flag is when you feel like you're kind of going through a tornado, and you guys, for Gemini energy, it's like a kid in a candy store when it's all this information, right? But it's an overload, and then you get sick in your stomach. So it's somebody who, they kind of like take you on this journey, and but it's not really going anywhere. Okay, so another thing is emotionally distant, or like I said, avoidant, escapist in some way, red flag. Okay, because you guys really can feed onto that, because you just want the candy, you want the next big thing. You're just gonna be kind of like breadcrumb by this person. So another one is like, watch out for people that are impulsive and reckless, overly blunt, where it's kind of like, oh, I'm just being honest. There's a difference between being honest and just being mean, okay, and just being cruel. So watch out for people who are just overly, they're not really nice. Okay, they're mean. Another one is watch out for someone who uses grand displays of things for manipulation, because I guess I should add this to the light attribute. With Sag energy can be very generous and very optimistic and very big, right? And very they share a lot. So green flag, someone who's generous and shares, right? They share their knowledge, they share their wealth, right? But in the shadow, it can be to the point where it's like too much, where they don't have anything left for themselves. They're just kind of doing it impulsively and recklessly. So watch out for that, because that can get you in trouble. So what's important for you guys is make sure you're a Gemini rising, you're the sign of communication. You learning how to communicate effectively, aside from the anxiety, because you guys can be prone to anxiety, is going to be the best thing for you in relationships. Okay. Staying curious, staying playful. You guys want a relationship that feels like you're two free spirits, you're having fun together, you're laughing. You know, it's not something that feels forced or bogged down, or a traditional idea of commitment in terms of like this linear way. Like for you guys, it can be kind of all over the place, and that's okay, right? A little chaotic, but you make sure that you are you're engaging yourself mentally and socially, that you have that for yourself. Because if you have a deficit of that in a relationship, it's going to be so toxic, because that person is going to be the source of like your stimulation, and that can go left, and that's when you're going to attract the shadow aspect of Sagittarius. So make sure you're keeping yourself stimulated, you're keeping yourself engaged in your life. Okay, so you attract people that expand your horizon. So be open about your ideas, be open about, like, if you're not already be open about your interests and your ideas. Like I said, your thoughts, your words, all that. You're good with that. Okay, your playfulness, you're kind of like witty and mischievous. Like lean into that part, because it's going to attract that Sag energy. So don't also settle for anyone that kind of wants to tame you, that wants to keep you trapped and keep you hidden, and doesn't want to grow, expand at all. Someone who kind of wants to keep you like stuck and be your only source of stimulation. Watch out for that. So I feel like your ideal person is you're gonna laugh, you're gonna travel, you're gonna grow together, you're gonna expand together, right? So I hope that resonated for my Gemini risings. I'm gonna keep going, and I'll see you guys next time. All right. Okay. So for my Cancer risings, okay, green flags, you guys, they're ambitious, they're structured, they're practical. They make you feel like things are handled and things are taken care of. This is going to be somebody where you're more emotional, nurturing, and sensitive, and you may, because of your emotional fluctuations and moodiness, you may kind of feel like ungrounded at times, or may be prone to feeling very insecure. This person makes you feel secure, okay? Because even if like maybe you're more anxious, right? I've seen that a lot with Cancer rising. You're more anxious in love. You're more like, I want to know now. Like you're more kind of attached. This is somebody who doesn't make you feel like you're too clingy, who doesn't make you feel like you are, who doesn't trigger those insecurities of either your body or your, or that like you're too emotional, things like that. It's somebody who you don't even have the opportunity to feel insecure, because everything is handled, everything is taken care of. You feel safe, you feel like things are handled, you feel like this is someone who, whereas like I said, you're more emotional and sensitive and intuitive and nurturing to other people and tuning to their emotional needs. There's someone who really takes care of everything else in the physical, right? Your physical needs, right? The material, the world, okay? This is someone who's very mature. You guys will likely find love after your Saturn return, or you will attract mature partners, people who are, even if they're not older than you, it's like, it's a love that will take a little bit of time, but when it's there, it lasts, okay? It lasts, okay? It's someone who you feel, like I said, very secure and very anchored by. Also, another thing is dependable. They're dependable and reliable, and it's like, I just love Cancer Capricorn relationships, because it's like the mother and the father. So where you will exemplify the mother energy, the feminine, right? This person is the masculine, right? But in a grounded, practical, material way, okay? So again, they're very structured, they're organized, they bring like a structure and an organization to your emotional nature, okay? To your feminine nature, where you feel free to be emotional, you feel free to nurture, you feel free. It's like they provide and you water that provision, okay? So it's like you're not worried about, because you guys, like I said, if there's not that provision, you have a hard time watering it. You have a hard time like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And you get anxious, and it's like, oh my gosh. Or so you guys really do well when someone is providing something and you're nurturing that, you're taking care of it, okay? So again, I feel like it's someone who just, they have a dad energy, okay? They're protective. Another one is they're really protective. Like you feel secure. You feel like you can just snuggle up under this person and like you don't have to worry about anything. That's another green flag, is you don't have to worry about anything. Like everything is handled, everything is taken care of, everything is like, even before a problem arises, it's taken care of, right? That's the type of people that you attract. Ambitious, really about their money, really about their hustle, really about their work, really about security, really about taking care of the ones that they love. Now, the red flag here is when all of that becomes a means of control, okay? They're way too rigid and they're my way or the highway. All of this is how it's going to be. This is how it's going to go. I don't really care about how you feel. They're very emotionally dismissive. Watch out for that. And that can, even in the beginning, you can watch out for like how they plan the date, if they keep you in mind, okay? If they even do plan the date, right? Red flag is they're overly focused on like status and control and success and money and ambition, but they're not nurturing you. You don't feel safe and protected. It's like, yeah, we have a home, but like you're never here. That sort of energy here. So again, also watch out for somebody very cold. They don't have to be as emotional as you, but someone who's more emotionally cold or distant, or like I said, they prioritize that provision, but they're not realizing like you're watering it and you're caring for it, and they in a way too need to at least hold space for that, okay? So watch out for that. It's going to be somebody who is protective and loving and caring, but more in a practical sense. So even if they're not as emotional as you, it's fine, but it's like they have to at least take into that account consideration where you feel emotionally nurtured and cared for, because that is a need for you. Like I said, how this kind of manifests is, like I said, someone who just kind of plans a date and this is what we're doing. They don't really care about your input or opinion. That's a red flag, right? Because for you guys, it's going to be someone who, yes, they plan the date, but they also ask you like, oh, is this something that you would like to do? Are you comfortable? Are you okay? What can I fix? Okay. So also watch out for someone who's, like I said, uses money, status, and all of that as a means of control. Like I said, it's like they're unavailable to you in some way, shape, or form. So continue to embody this nurturing, feminine, regardless of your gender, like motherly sort of energy where you're kind of, you care for and you love for and you wear your heart on your sleeve. So when you create emotional comfort, you're going to manifest somebody who creates this practical, comfort, and who holds space for that, who kind of like gives a practical manifestation of your emotional self and nature. So again, you're also going to need to let someone in. You're going to need to let somebody do that and let someone balance you in that way and trust them enough, right? It's emotional and it's intuitive for you. So deep down, when it's the right person and when it's not. So let them earn your trust through reliability, consistency, providing stability, okay? Avoid allowing someone to kind of take control of everything and either like in your shadow, maybe you might kind of like be overly motherly, overly like, hands-on, but it's like, make sure you are taking care of yourself and your emotions, and you are finding security in yourself. You're finding security in your worth, and you're not like becoming codependent or reliable on someone outside of you for that, okay? So I hope that resonated, my Cancer risings. We're gonna move on. I will see you guys next time. Let me know in the comments if it resonated. Let's see here. Okay, so for my Leo risings, green flags is someone who is independent, okay? I don't know why my eyes just got so big. They're independent. They are very authentic. They have their own sort of unique way of going about things, about going about the world. They don't really care about being popular, or they don't really care about what other people think about them. They're someone who is very unique and has a strong individuality. Green flag, okay? Someone who is very original, green flag. Open-minded, green flag. They're like a visionary, okay? So either like they are an artist in some way, or there's something very unique and different about either their work or their style or how they dress. Green flag, because they're not concerned about what other people care. They're not concerned about what society cares about them. They're concerned about making the world a better place, and they do that through having a stronger sense of individuality. So this is a green flag, is someone who is committed to some sort of cause, some sort of humanitarian cause, or some sort of like, even if they're involved in like technology, advancing technology in some way, in tech, okay, in medicine, okay, they really wholeheartedly have it's not this surface level like way of doing things or a belief in something. It's like they're committed to it because it's tied to their individuality. It's tied to who they are as a person, not because of the collective, what the other people want or what they think is right, okay? So that is a green flag, okay? I would say another one is a green flag is if they're kind of like in their own world. Okay, they're kind of like aloof. They're kind of like not that detached, because that's more of the red flag, but they kind of feel like, are we on the same planet? Like they kind of have their own rules for things, right? So in some ways it could be a rebel where they defy a lot of what traditionally you might anticipate from either a man or a woman or whatever, right? So there's something about them that is unique and creative, because you guys with Leo rising, you wear your heart on your sleeve too, like, but loud and bold and proudly, right? You're expressive and you attract attention and all that. But this could be somebody who is like, they're very honest, they're very intelligent, okay? They think ahead, they think in a means of not what's popular. They kind of live in their own world. Like, I just keep thinking of J. Cole, like J. Cole, right? You see how, like, yes, he's a rapper and he did, but for him it's like he kind of does live in his own world. He's not really involved in drama. He's like, he's very unique in what he does. So that's sort of energy, right? They have integrity, they have morals, they have principles that they abide by and that they live their life freely, okay? Very intelligent green flag. Either, I would say, like I said, a visionary, humanitarian. Now, red flags is, this is gonna be someone, a red flag would be that they are emotionally distant, to the point where you don't get the feeling of recognition that you want. Where they're too focused on their own individuality and their own world that they're not realizing like about yours, and you kind of need that like affection, admiration, you need that. So someone who is kind of unpredictable and they're just, like I said, emotionally aloof, you don't really know what you're getting from them. You feel like, the biggest red flag I'm going to tell you guys is when you start to feel like you need their validation because they're not giving you something that you need, okay? Where this intelligence also comes like this superiority complex, where they think that they know more than you, where they think that they're better than you in some way, or you kind of feel like this superiority energy coming from them, and they're not really treating your needs and your wants and your values on the same level as theirs. Red flag. Another one I would say is like they're too rebellious, like it's like F-boy energy, bad boy energy, like, but it's for no reason. It's not for a cause, it's not for something that's truly aligned with their heart. It's like they're just not mature in that Aquarius energy. So again, someone who's just like too aloof and too detached, and like I said, not really giving you the emotional expression, admiration, words of affirmation that you need in a relationship. I would say also, like I said, just too detached from you. Like I said, you need that closeness, you need that affection, and they're, like I said, emotionally unavailable, not really willing to meet you kind of halfway, right? They don't invite you to their world. So I would say here, the most important thing is be as expressive as you are. Be your light, be your bold, expressive in the limelight, attracting that energy, being radiant and loving. That's going to attract that Aquarius energy naturally, right? Because for you guys, if you try to dim that light, if you try to dim that expression, like, oh, I'm going to hold back, I'm not really going to say how I feel, you're going to attract more of those emotional, unavailable, aloof type of people who are okay with that, okay? So you're gonna need somebody who doesn't like want to steal the spotlight from you, who doesn't see you as lower than, but also kind of gives you that validation that you need, but also introduces you to like being separate from other people's opinions and being validated from other people, right? Someone who kind of introduces you to like your own individuality or your own uniqueness because they're so firm in theirs. I would also say like you definitely need someone who celebrates your fire and your light, who's attracted to that, but they help you see beyond that. They help you see that it's bigger than my own fire and my own light, you know? So it's going to be somebody who kind of represents that, that bigger picture focus here outside of ourselves. So I would say here, I'm just trying to see if I wrote anything else. Yeah, like just shine in your authenticity, because Aquarius energy is attracted to authenticity, but your authenticity is more like, it's more in your face, it's more in your fire, in your warmth, and how loud and proud you are about yourself, okay? So now, I hope that resonates, you guys. You guys definitely can be prone to attracting those F-boys, those emotionally unavailable, like constantly breadcrumbing you, or just very distant and aloof, and like you're wanting their validation. Be in your light, be in your power. Do not dim your light for anybody. Be expressive and loud, and like, you know, you look, in a way, we should be self-centered, right? Because it is your life and it is your universe, right? That you are experiencing the universe through. But also don't forget, beyond that, that you are also beyond, and that's what someone who's going to help you remind you of that. That's the Aquarius energy. But also another green flag I would say is like someone who's introverted or kind of a loner, or like the popular loner, or like they're kind of nerdy in some way. You know, like that. They don't really give a F about like pop culture. They don't really give a F about things like that. Like they're just kind of like, wow, they're in their own world. They're doing their own thing. Like they're just like unbothered. They're really unbothered. They're really like chill, unbothered. Like, wow. So yeah, that's the energy that is gonna be a green flags for you. So I hope that resonated, you guys, and I will see y'all next time. Okay, so now we're gonna move on. Okay, so for my Virgo risings, if you are a Virgo rising, okay, green flag is they're compassionate, they're sensitive to your needs, okay? They're empathetic, they're emotional, they're kind of like maybe dreamy and intuitive in some way, even if it's not so Piscean to the point where it can bother you. It's like this is somebody who can be more fluid in nature, where green flag is you guys are, you like your routine, you like predictability. This is going to be somebody who kind of takes you out of that and makes you see that like we don't have to know everything. We don't have to be like we don't have to know everything. We don't have to be in control of everything. Like we can let things sort of happen. We can let things sort of go with the flow. So they could be more spiritual or creative in some way. Green flag, okay? Kind of like that artist, kind of like that more emotional person, okay? They kind of wear their heart on their sleeve. They're very sensitive. They care a lot about animals. They care a lot about sick people. They're someone who is just very emotional overall, and they show that because you're emotional too. You just have a hard time showing it. So this is someone who shows you it's okay to not have control, someone who is more emotional and is able to display that, who brings out your sensitivity too. I would say as well someone who's very empathetic, okay, and someone who's kind of like a free spirit, where they don't feel like they have to control their emotions so much. They don't feel like they have to suppress their emotions so much. But overall, someone who kind of takes you out of that routine and that rigidness that you may pull yourself into, that kind of takes you out of your head and into your heart. Green flag, okay? Someone as well who is, they kind of have, like, you are very practical and you're very service oriented, but this is somebody who takes care of your emotional needs, because you might take care of like physical needs and like you know what people need and you can anticipate it, but it's someone who also sees you and has empathy for you and care for you, okay? So in terms of the red flag, watch out for someone who has substance abuse issues. Watch out for someone who you feel like you have to take care of. You guys are the sign of service and you love to take care of others, and it's not even sometimes it's not even that you love to take care of others. You just feel like who else is going to do it, right? And so watch out for somebody who makes you feel like they're a project that you have to take care of, because they're a mess. They don't have their life together, okay? They don't have anything going on, or it's like they just can't really handle the mundane. They can't handle the reality. So you become like their connection to the earth, where they're just too dreamy and spacey up there. So you really want to watch out for someone who's kind of flaky. That's going to rub you the wrong way. They lack boundaries. You don't really know which side of them you're getting, or they're kind of like a different person in every setting. So they don't really have a strong sense of self. Watch out for someone, like I said, who have substance abuse issues. They're escapists. Someone who they should, even though they're that Pisces energy, you should still feel like there's a level of predictability. You should still feel like secure in that you do need that rigidity system, but like it's not to the point where it's like, oh my god, what's going on and what's happening. You wouldn't be attracted to that anyway, but you can find yourself in relationships where you have to take care of someone else, and really, really watch out for that. You should find someone who takes care of you emotionally, especially. Watch out for anyone who's emotionally manipulative. You guys can be prone to that too, okay? Who kind of like uses their sensitivity and their emotions in order to get something that they want, because they know that maybe that's something that you repress or really struggle with expressing. So I think here it's like continue to be embracing like you, for my Virgo energy, honestly, take better care of yourself. Service yourself. Nurture yourself, okay? Make sure that you, I feel like you can be your grounded, I like how this is, you know, structured or type of stuff, because there is also a chaos to Virgo, and I think you would like a partner that shows you that it's okay to kind of show that chaos a little bit more. So it's about continuing to be like more of service to yourself, like I said, but make sure that you're not trying to save people. Make sure you're saving yourself. Make sure that you're not trying to, because you may feel so out of control emotionally that you try to control someone else's emotional world, or try to control someone else and fix them. But it's like, mirror that energy back to yourself, okay? You can support and love without self-sacrificing. And also watch out for someone who they enable your self-sacrificing tendencies where you feel used, okay? So you can choose a love that's inspiring and freeing, but also grounded, okay? So you also have to be a little bit more flexible and less rigid in your own ways by allowing more grace for yourself, and that you can make mistakes and you don't have to be like perfect. You can also kind of be in your own creative flow as well, but you will likely attract people that will inspire that out of you. So just be mindful, okay? So I hope that resonated, my Virgos. We're gonna go move on to my Libra risings, okay? Let's see here. So if you're a Libra rising, green flag, they're assertive, they're courageous, they're honest, they're blunt, they're full of fire, they're full of life, they don't really hold back in terms of what they want, okay? You can be more passive and you can be more focused, like I said, on like aesthetics and like how things look like. This person is like, okay, is it getting done? So this is someone who gets things done. This is someone who is an initiatory, okay? They're independent, they're assertive, they have some sort of masculine energy to them regardless of gender. Green flag is someone who's like into sports, they're competitive in some way, they just have a fire, okay? It's like you're very calm and like chill. This is somebody who has like this energy that's like it makes you move, you know. Someone who brings more passion to your life, who brings more of like, again, it's more of a masculine energy. They're a doer. That's a green flag. A doer, okay? They're a go-getter. They're initiative. They take initiative. They don't really hold back. They don't really wait for a green light. They're somebody who because you can be more people-pleasing sometimes in your shadow. So somebody who is like, who shows you, they say what they mean and mean what they say, like, and it's safe to do that and it's okay to do that, okay? It's somebody who is assertive, not aggressive, all right? So overall, just full of life, okay? They're very responsible though, okay? They take their commitments seriously, like they're a leader, okay? This is like, when you think of masculinity, this is, especially for a woman, that's it, like true raw masculinity, okay? Like they like to build things with their hands, or like they like to take care of things, like they like to be the leader, okay? They like to be the one who initiates, who does things. So like assuming you don't have any other Aries in your chart, potentially it's like you will be okay with like kind of sitting back and taking a more passive role. So for the red flags that you want to watch out for is somebody who's selfish, someone who's impulsive, someone who is they bring too much imbalance, all right, where it's like there's all this assertiveness and it's borderline aggressive, okay? They're childish, temperamental, easily provoked, okay? Everything, they'll just easily blow up. They're controlling, inconsiderate of you, of your needs. Someone who is like, it's my way or the highway, and they kind of want you to kind of fall into you're kind of like a chess piece for them, right? So it's like your needs and your wants aren't really considered here. So another part of like the shadow part of Aries energy is they're like, they try to dominate you as well, right? You feel like there's this battle of dominance here. Impulsive, like I said, it's too much like childish fights and arguments. They set you off over things that are like really not that serious. I would also say that they're also not disciplined in their primal energy. So not it's like too much of that fire, and it's not really going anywhere. It's like someone who is impulsive and they start off hot and strong, but it doesn't last long. But again, just inconsiderate, and it's like my way or the highway, and they don't really care about what it is that you want. They don't really care about what it is that you need. They don't really care about your opinions and all of that. Like, that's just completely dismissive. I would also say somebody who dismisses like your need for beauty and aesthetics too, and they kind of like downplay that and don't really see the importance of it or the value that you bring. So I think that the more you are firm in your individuality, you're firm in yourself, because you guys can people please and you guys can kind of go with what somebody else says sometimes just to keep the peace. Make sure you're prioritizing your peace and your harmony, okay, within yourself. Use your charm, okay, use your, because that Aries energy is going to be attracted to how you kind of have that finesse. So when you lead with that grace and diplomacy, and but also keeping in mind yourself and your needs, you're going to attract those partners who are more assertive and confident and have the energy that you want. So don't confuse that domination with a sense of like direction or like this is how things need to be. Make sure that you're also putting your foot down too. And you're in a relationship where you don't feel like you're constantly having to put your foot down, though, where they're kind of walking all over you. So you deserve someone who kind of takes that initiative and like adds that fire and adds that like assertiveness and like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that, but it needed to be said, you know, without overpowering your voice. That's the biggest like differentiation. You shouldn't feel overpowered. You shouldn't feel like not considered. So you're here to teach people balance in relationships, but not abandoning yourself, okay? So I hope that resonated for my Libra risings. I'm going to see you guys next time. Let me know in the comments how it resonated for you. And yeah, I'll see y'all in the next video. All right, so let's see here, because no puedo ver. Okay, so if you are a Scorpio rising, okay, you likely are very you have a magnetism to you. You have like this energy that wait, if I for my Scorpio risings, right, you guys are very like magnetic and irresistible, and like you have this energy. Or even if you have Pluto in the first house, right, you are somebody that you have like this je ne sais quoi type of vibe, right, kind of dark. So in love here, there's no surface level. Is very deep for you. It is you, because you represent depth. But what you attract and what you kind of need is that stability, right? So the green flags is someone who's loyal and they don't fold under pressure, okay? They can take your intensity. They can take it, okay? Your intensity and all of that, they don't make you feel like it's too much or like, oh my gosh, you need to tone it down. They add a groundedness, they add a foundation to it, okay? So another one is like they're consistent, right? They're very stable, they're reliable, they're consistent. It's very slow moving. So you guys might think a red flag is someone who isn't like moving fast enough. That might be a red flag with what you think, but what you need is someone who takes their time with you, someone who takes it slow and steady, because you want to go in and you want to be in love now, and you want to like have all of that, right? Because it makes you feel more secure, because you might struggle with like trusting someone, right? So for you guys, it's actually, think about it, trust is built over time. Anyone that comes in hot and fast isn't really here to build something stable and secure. It wants to mimic trust. So you feel emotionally safe and secure. It might trigger you how slow someone might go, but trust me, that is actually better for you, okay? So someone who is very patient, okay, it may feel boring at first, okay, but it actually will hold the depth that you need. So green flags, I will say, is like they offer long-term security. It's not just emotionally deep and like intense, which your relationship might feel like, but they ground that to something that's very long, stable. So it's like you guys might be used to intense relationships that's like boom, intensity, and it's like so much. You actually need someone who it's like not as intense in the beginning, but it's an intensity that they can maintain, okay? So they're also someone who can offer like long-term stability and security, and they're very much focused on money and finances and making things feel secure. And you know, they're about their stability, and they could be like very pretty, very attractive, or you know, this is someone handsome, because Taurus is Venus rule, right? They have like a beautiful face, very full. Green flag is like there's that magnetism and attraction, but it's like it's more grounded and earthy. It's not this lustful sexual type of energy, okay? So I would also say here is someone who kind of brings the structure to your storm, right? Who you can be intense and you can be like fixated. This is someone who brings, like I said, a groundedness, that who brings a comfort and a security and a consistency. They're consistent, okay? So I would also say green flags is somebody who has their shmoney together, okay? Someone who is stable and is financially stable, who's financially secure, because you guys, maybe you're so real and raw and it's like, oh, I don't really care about money sometimes, right? It depends, but like you really need someone who is financially secure and stable, who brings stability, and like I said, brings that stability to your emotional depth that you are and that you radiate. Someone who, for you guys, you want to merge, okay? You want to bond souls, you want to go together and all of that, but they're more focused on creating a security that lasts, okay, in this lifetime and in the next, right? So I would say the shadow part of this is somebody who is overly possessive and jealous and triggers that inside of you, right? Especially because you both can really struggle with control. So someone who kind of sees you as, oh, you're mine, and that's not it. Or they kind of use money instead of vulnerability and depth and intimacy. They kind of use finances in order to connect, in order, instead of the depth and the emotional intensity that you need. So someone who is emotionally avoidant here, again, they kind of use those financial means. They're not really open to change. They're not really open to like going through that journey with you. They're very rigid and stuck in their own ways and stuck in their own comfort, and also wanting to kind of keep you there and you not wanting to grow and expand beyond that. So they kind of prioritize their comfort and indulgence over truths, over raw, emotions, over really seeing one-on-one, like on a soul level, of what it feels like, okay? So I feel like this is also like someone who kind of dismisses your intensity or tries to soothe it over or minimize it instead of holding space for it, right? Instead of like recognizing it and valuing it, but kind of pushing it over, not really wanting to deal with it, not really wanting to go deep with that, okay? So that's another red flag, is they're not deep in any way. They don't want to have deep conversations. They don't want to talk about emotions and feelings. They don't want to another thing also, like, you just don't trust them. Like, that's something intuitive. You guys are very intuitive. You're very observant. You're very perceptive. So someone who makes you feel limerent, who's someone who makes you feel like they trigger that jealousy, and they trigger that those feelings in you, is not something that is going to be good for you, okay? So you're gonna need to trust your instincts, right? Because like I said, you're very, very intuitive. So you need to make sure that you are embodying truth and you're embodying rawness, and you're not toning down your intensity and your emotions and all that, because you're going to attract somebody who can ground that and sees that and is like, because they are likely going to need that emotional depth that you are bringing. They might be more materially focused, but it balances each other out, right? Another thing is watch out for anyone who indulges too much. That's a red flag, right? In alcohol, primal energy, lower energy, all of that. Their senses, they're lustful, or they're just like too much on the physical, and not really, they're overindulging in that to make up for the lack of emotional depth and the lack of emotional vulnerability within themselves, okay? So don't trade like emotional intensity and that need for you for like comfort for material things. You're not here to like have a lukewarm type of love relationship. Watch out for people that love bomb. Watch out for people that take things too fast, too soon, okay? So you're gonna need to be with someone who kind of sees all that you are, and it reassures you that they're not going anywhere, that they're here to stay and they're here to be stable and secure with you, okay? So for my Sagittarius risings, okay, let's go here. So for my Sag risings here, you naturally radiate like this optimism and this adventure and this truth seeking. You might come off as like really philosophical and like freedom loving. You're kind of like at your own pace, or even it's like you just like, you're fiery and fun, and you're this light and this radiance and this warmth that lights up the room, right? So you tend to attract people that are like intelligent, talkative, adaptable, very, very smart, okay, very witty. People who really stimulate your mind. You feel like you're best friends, right? So what green flags is they're fun. Okay, starts off like you guys are friends, you guys are cool, right? They're very mentally stimulating, things are very light and playful in the beginning. There's a lot of communication. You feel like I said, it doesn't feel like too heavy in terms of like you guys feel like it's just like an adaptable, we're here to have a good time and laugh and talk and have these conversations. So another one is green flag is they're very curious. Okay, they're very talkative, they're very like, they want to learn about everything. They're willing to explore different things, different perspectives. Like they're very open in that sense. Like they keep things interesting, it keeps things fun. Like you guys you have banter. That's another really green flag for you. You're always down to like, they're always down to learn, they're always down to learn from you, they're always down to like pick your brain. Okay, so also I think that it's someone, green flag is someone that really gives you space for your freedom. They really give you space to be that expansive person that you are. There's someone who like matches your generosity, who matches that you just naturally have this warmth and this light and this sort of happy-go-lucky energy. That's just how you kind of come off. So it's somebody who sees that and wants to add to it, not someone that kind of wants to like keep it as their own, or they give you, like I said, they give you that space to be yourself. Okay, so again, they're smart, intelligent. Like if they're an idiot, I promise you they're not the one for you. Gemini in the 7th house, you need somebody smart. Okay, you need somebody light, someone who's playful, someone who's like, you just have a good time and it feels like you're friends. Like I said, I would say here they're just curious about everything in general. Like they're just kind of a fairy. That's green flags, right? They're kind of a fairy. Also, green flag is somebody that's like, they kind of know everybody, they have a good rapport with everyone. Like they're just very talkative and very social, and they kind of know the gossip or the tea on everybody, that type of vibe, right? They're just like a very mentally engaged, socially engaged type of person. Okay, so I would also say it's somebody who's they're down for anything. Like if you text them randomly like, hey, let's go do this, they're down for it. Okay, it's like, wait, I was thinking about the same thing, let's go do it. You know, they're not somebody who is like I said, who's trying to hold you back. They're actually trying to add to that adventure and that optimism that you feel. Okay, I also will say here with the green flags is someone that shows you that it's okay to like be flexible in terms of your beliefs. Okay, green flags, there's somebody who just knows about different things, who wants to talk through life with you and grow with you. Okay, they stimulate your mind. Okay, there's like this mental passion. Okay, they're clever. Okay, they're youthful, they're multi-passionate. Green flags, multi-passion is it's a huge green flag for you. Okay, so they're like, they kind of feed your ability to see the bigger picture, and they have a respect for that. So I would say here in terms of red flags is someone who's flaky and non-committal. That's big. They're flaky, they're non-committal, they're closed-minded, they want to kind of trap you and keep you stuck and don't really want to see you expand and grow. They're kind of talking to everyone romantically, right? It's too much. They're like kind of flirty and all over the place, but it's like they're not really committed to anything or anyone. So they kind of avoid that depth, and they kind of enable, sometimes you can be more avoidant or escapist in some ways. So it's somebody who enables that, and you know, by keeping things distant or not having much depth in the relationship here. So I also think watch out for someone who ghosts and like disappears whenever it's a heavy conversation or things get serious. Someone who will intellectualize your feelings but not emotionally understand or not emotionally connect with you. I would also say like, yeah, like they just want to grow with you. Like honestly, the biggest green flag is it feels like a friend. Red flag, it feels like a parent. Okay, it feels like someone who's trying to tell you that your truths are wrong, or that this is what you should believe in, who's trying to kind of force you into that lane. Or someone that's just non-committal, or just not they're just flaky. Okay, so next we're gonna move on, all right, to my Capricorn. So for my Capricorn risings, hold on. For my Capricorn risings, 58. So your green flags is someone who is nurturing, who is intuitive, they're emotionally intelligent, someone who where you're more focused on ambition, on success and like achieving, and you're very goal oriented and you're very like focused on what you can grow and build. You're very futurely focused. This is someone who brings you back to your feelings. This is someone who brings you back to the why behind why you're trying to success and achieve and all that, how it's really driven by some emotional desire, okay? So someone who's family oriented, they're soft hearted, they wear their heart and their emotions on their sleeve. That's a green flag for you, because it takes you out of like this ambition, this practical way of doing things in this practical world. So it's also going to be somebody who is like more feminine, has more of this feminine energy regardless of your gender. It's going to be someone who brings you more into that feminine energy of like being in tune with our emotions, being more present. Instead of focusing so much on what we're doing and what we're achieving, they're bringing you back to your heart. They're bringing you back to what you need right now, okay? It's somebody who makes you feel taken care of. They make you feel nurtured. They make you feel like they introduce you to another world, it feels like, where it's like more emotional, intuitive, and focused on how things feel. And it might be frustrating for you because it's like we can't really physically touch it, see it. It's something that we have to feel, and we don't have to do anything for it. So it's gonna feel like very effortless. Green flag, okay? Someone who is like more soft spoken or soft hearted. They're very loyal, they're very family oriented. Someone who radiates like it's like you feel like, oh my gosh, I can just talk to them about anything, and you rarely feel that with anybody, right? So it's someone who makes you feel safe enough to be vulnerable, safe enough to be open, because they radiate intimacy, they radiate openness, they radiate vulnerability, okay? Someone who kind of feels like a therapist in a way. They just have that nurturing energy, that nurturing spirit where you feel taken care of in ways that are not physical. I would also just say like someone who's more intuitive. They could also be like spiritual in some way, or just like more feminine, like I said, more receptive to energy rather than like action oriented and like building, grow. While you are attracted, don't get me wrong, to people that are, you don't like lazy. You like people that got their ish together and are focused on, you want to create a legacy together, but they add an emotional like prioritization to it, where it's more so understanding the basis of emotions, of our goals is emotional in some regard, like I said before. So it's going to be somebody who has that family nurturing spirit, where it's like, okay, we're achieving and we're succeeding for our families, to create something, a legacy for our families, for we can feel safe and secure for. So those are definitely green flags. I would also say somebody who with Cancer in the 7th house is let me see. Yeah, nurturing, caring, loving, all of that. Sensitive, emotional. You want to watch out for the red flags though, where they're overly clingy to the point where you feel like you can't really get anything done, or like they don't really get anything done, okay? Where they're manipulative with their emotions, okay? They use their emotions against you, and your emotions against you. Passive aggressive, or they kind of blow up and have emotional, explosive moments here that are like frequent, okay? They're kind of overly nostalgic, where they're really focused on the past and they're really focusing on hoarding that you want to build and you want to grow for the future. That's really going to clash. So watch out for those red flags, especially when it comes to money and values. Overall, just someone that's emotional, volatile, or who is very moody to the point where it's like you feel like you have to parent them. You feel like you're their father in a way. Really, really watch out for people who you feel like I'm their father, okay? Because they're emotionally like immature and don't really have a grasp on their emotions, for my Capricorn risings, okay? Watch out for someone who is just overall like passive aggressive and clingy, and like doesn't really have their own. You don't really respect their hustle. They don't really have a sense of security, or like you feel like you have to take care of them. So for you guys, I would definitely say like it's about finding the balance with, you are ambitious, you want to succeed, you want to create, you're focused on achieving all of that, but it's about opening yourself up to being taken care of, opening yourself up to be nurtured, because you likely always take that role, okay? So someone who brings like this emotional richness, and it just feels heartfelt, and it just feels like you're allowing yourself to be loved. So but you have to put yourself in a position where those walls are kind of down and you're letting yourself be loved, and you're not weak for wanting emotional connection, you're not weak for wanting closeness, okay? It's like someone who makes you feel safe in that, who makes you feel still like you have your like you feel like comfortable and safe crying, and like but again, that there is that part of you, but it just has to come out, it has to soften up. A green flag is someone who makes you feel a little softer. So overall, I would say like letting yourself be loved, and the more and more you focus on like creating that sense of stability for yourself, naturally you will attract someone who's like more water and reminds you of that emotional part of life. But you have to put yourself in a position where you're open to that, okay? So I hope that resonated for my Capricorn risings. We are going to move on, and let me know in the comments if it resonated for you. I will see you guys next time. Okay. Okay. All right, so for my Aquarius risings, okay, so you are someone that is more kind of detached and aloof in general, right? You kind of have your own way of doing things, or you're just very like airy, right? So you likely attract people that are more fiery, okay? Green flags is they're confident, they're generous, they're someone who's expressive, they're very loving, they're very affectionate. Green flag is someone who is very firm in their individuality in terms of like they have a very loud personality. And it might initially, you might be like, oh my God, this person is so loud. They are so, like, they talk so much. They're a little self-centered. They're a little bit about them, me. But the more and more you open up to these personalities, it's going to be someone who opens up your heart to like more warmth. They bring more warmth in your life. Green flag. They bring more fire. They bring more generosity. They kind of bring you back to the collective in a way where you're more open-minded and like in the collective, in a more detached way. They're someone who's actively in it and kind of brings you back to that, okay? So someone who's more expressive, because you tend to be a little bit more serious or a little bit more like, you're not really expressive in some ways. You're more expressive in like the things that you do, but maybe not emotionally, and maybe not in your fire, maybe not in your action. So this is going to be somebody who's like very loud and proud and bold, and it, like I said, it might initially kind of annoy you, but it's actually exactly what you need, okay? So it's kind of giving me like the jock or the popular girl, the popular guy, but you actually like connect with them and you see like, oh my gosh, this person has like, they're just like bubbly, okay? That's a green flag. It's just like a bubbly, bright, radiant energy that kind of bring, like I said, they bring you back to that fire, they bring you back to that warmth, okay? They're going to be somebody who has like a heart. They have a beautiful, radiant heart. They're very like charismatic. People really like them. They're really great with people. They're really great in social settings. They kind of value your mind and they hold space for that, but they also remind you of like expressing that and expanding that outwardly, okay? So I would say here, in terms of red flags, is someone who's like attention seeking and dramatic, okay? Egotistical, selfish in nature, doesn't really care about, their heart is closed, okay? They're not expressive in any way. That's just going to be, you guys can't be too emotionally kind of distant or aloof. It's just not going to go anywhere. So it's going to be somebody who may feel like entitled as well. You guys, that really sets you off, okay? So it's like you guys are, embody your innovation, authenticity, your vision, who you are. You guys are kind of like I said, the popular loners, and it's okay, but that person is going to be attracted to that. They're going to be attracted to how you're kind of aloof and detached from the world, but you also are really attracted to how this person kind of goes through life, and they're radiant and they're like involved and they're present, okay? And they wear their heart and they're open with it and they're expressive and they're loud and proud and bold about it. So I feel like you need partners who reflect your brilliance and your radiance, and but it's like you don't need somebody who dims your light in order, like your eccentricity, right? You're kind of different in how you do things, right? You're kind of unique and you have a more detached and like you're just a different way of expressing yourself, right? You don't need to dim that light or feel like you need to fit in, but it's somebody who can see that and love that, but also it's just like someone who just brings more fun to your life, who brings more fun and more like carefreeness, okay? More radiance and more light and more love, okay? So yeah, I think that's kind of what I have for you guys. Overall, a love that values your mind, holds space for your soul, holds space for your love for humanity, your commitment to something for a cause, right? But like they're not overly seeking your validation. They're not egotistical. They're not selfish in nature. Like they're big and grand, maybe grandiose in some ways, but it's not to the point where it's toxic, right? It's the point where it's like narcissistic. You guys tend to attract on a shadow narcissistic people. So make sure that you're firm in your individuality and you're open to it be like seeing a different way of expressing oneself and expressing one's individuality. So living in your truth and living in who you are and not dimming that and not repressing that or not feeling like you have to fit some sort of mold, okay? So that's what I have for my Aquarius risings. Let me know in the comments if it resonated, and we're gonna move on. Okay, last but not least, for my Pisces risings, okay? You guys are intuitive and sensitive and dreamy, and like you're empathetic, and you have this sort of ethereal energy and nature to you. So with my Pisces rising, I relate to you guys so much because I have so much Neptune, so many aspects of Neptune in my chart. Okay, so when I'm saying you guys need, I'm also saying I need. Okay, so green flags for my Pisces rising is someone who is supportive, someone who is nurturing, someone who grounds your sort of ethereal nature and your whimsical spiritual nature, and you're kind of like very emotional, and you can get very lost in the sensitivity where it's very hard for you to blur the lines between what you're feeling and what you're just soaking up and absorbing. So it's someone who brings you back to that groundedness, who is like earth to Pisces. Okay, that's really what you need. So you need somebody who's very detail oriented, someone who is very much involved in the mundane. Green flags, okay? They're like, oh no, my light went out. We'll still keep going. I hope, maybe if I turn, I think the lighting is better this way. Okay, yeah. So somebody who isn't like, well, that's the red flag. Someone who is, like I said, they're detail oriented, they're supportive to you. You feel like it's what you didn't need, because sometimes the mundane might bother you. The mundane might be really difficult for you to kind of grasp and deal with, and like you have a creative flow and a creative vision and a different way of going about things in a way that's more following your intuition and more following your nature, right? So it's going to be somebody who maybe they're really good with money, they're really good with finances, green flags. They're really good with details, green flags. There's somebody who supports you and like they are very organized, green flags. Okay, there's somebody who makes you feel like, oh my goodness, I didn't even like know I had to do this. I didn't even know that this was an issue. This whole time I've been just like nilly-willy going about it. It's somebody who really pays attention to like the material world. Okay, they're very like structured. Green flag. They're structured, they're organized, they're put together, they have like a system of doing things. They're more practical in nature. Okay, they're very supportive. Like I said, like you feel taken care of. You feel like things that you didn't even know were issues are fixed. Okay, green flag is a problem solver. You need a problem solver. Okay, there's someone who's nurturing and loving, but it's through action. It's through acts of service. They're very, very service oriented. There's someone who will service you and take care of you like no other. There's somebody who, like, you know, you guys are very loving and empathetic and sensitive to other people's needs, but they make you feel that way, but through their actions and what they do to support you. Okay, so overall, it's like someone who's just very helpful. In one word, green flag is they're helpful. They're helpful to others. They're helpful to you. They take care of things. Everything is handled like in the mundane world, and you may introduce them to, like, you know, not being so structured and grounded and disciplined and all of that, but like more connected to being free and fluid and kind of, you know, in a fairy way. Okay, so I will say here, this honestly, green flag is like the spiritual girl meets the logical boyfriend. Okay, that sort of energy, that sort of like spiritual whimsical woo woo, and then it's like the finance bro. Like that is the green flag for you guys, but it works. Okay, because you balance each other out. Now the red flags in terms of like what you might attract here is somebody who is like overly critical. They're nitpicky, they're controlling, they kind of dismiss your fluid nature and your creative nature, and they kind of suppress that. Okay, someone who is, they're really anxious. Okay, and they kind of trigger your, like, you take on their anxiety too. Someone who's just emotionally disconnected. They're almost too practical and too much focus on like, okay, what we need to fix, where they're not in the moment, they're not present, they're not able to understand that it's like to be open-minded and flexible and fluid, right? They're almost too fixed. Someone who's a perfectionist too is really going to bother you, because you guys don't really care about details and like how things are. It's not that you don't care, it's just more of you are so involved in like the magical parts of life that it's like, I don't really care if this button is loose. Like, how could you even think about that right now? So it's like, just watch out for that shadowy part of just that nitpicky, perfectionist, insecure, anxious energy, emotionally disconnected, and that they kind of bring that onto you. Or someone who doesn't have a respect for how you do things and feel like they have to fix your life, and they kind of treat you like a project, okay? So embody your dreaminess, embody your spiritual nature. Make sure you're grounded in yourself though. Make sure you have an anchor of yourself, okay? Make sure that you are connected to your inner divinity, even if that's what grounds you in God and spirit or whatever, okay? Where with partners who will love and serve you, but it's with intention, and it's out of love. It's not out of like you needing to be fixed or like an insecurity here. So it's also here, I think, like you don't need to be fixed. You need to see that within yourself. And if you do, it's something that you can do with yourself. You don't need somebody to do that for you. So I feel like your ideal partner is someone who honors your magic, but helps you to stay grounded and helps you to stay present, and you help them to be magical, and you bring more magic into their life, okay? So I hope that resonated, you guys. Let me know in the comments how it resonated for you, and I will see you guys next time. I have to go now, so I will see you guys. I love Pisces energy, so just drop a blue butterfly if you're still here. I want to see how many Pisces are here. But yes, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.